It's the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. Before we get into this episode, if you haven't already, please leave us a 5-star rating and review and subscribe on whichever platform you're listening to this on. It helps us go up in the rankings. It helps us to spread this message all over the world. And if you do leave a 5-star rating and review, you will get a shout out on the show. So I look forward to hearing from you. Very excited about this episode. Here with me today, I have Kevin Phillip out of El Paso, Texas. Kevin, really appreciate you coming on the show tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother. I'm glad to be here.
Definitely. So, Kevin, let's jump right into it. How did you get into real estate? Like, what was it about real estate where you were like, you know what, this is what I'm going to use. This is going to be one of my vehicles to build wealth for me and my family.
So, as I told you earlier, when we started, we were actually accidental landlords. I was a single guy. My wife was a single lady. We met and we're like, hey, we got kids. We need a bigger house. So we bought a bigger house, and then we just like, what do we do with these houses? We rent them. So we rented those 2 houses at a loss, mostly for I want to say like 3 years. Yeah, that's how it all started.
Definitely. So tell me about, so you mentioned you were renting them out at losses. Tell us more about that. You know, it sounds like, you know, it's a family situation. You've got a bigger house to accommodate the family, the kids and everything. And you mentioned that the 2 homes were rented out at a loss. Tell us more about that.
So when you get into real estate, there's a lot of unknowns. So for us, there was a lot of unknowns, and we trusted our realtor, probably not the right person to trust, but she led us blindly, and she said, this is what it's going to rent for. And we said, okay, you know, and so we rented them, and we weren't getting the full amount on one property for the mortgage, and the other one was just getting like a little bit over. But when you start factoring, hey, a water heater goes out, there's always going to be some kind of maintenance to rental properties. Like, you could have the perfect property, but in 3 years, something's going to break, and you have to be prepared to fix it.
Got it. So you mentioned it was like a couple of years. Like, when was that moment where you're like, you know what, we got to do better? Like, we're not making money on these properties. This person who's managing them it's just not going well. Like, what was the turning point where you're like, all right, we need to do something different?
Okay, after like a third or fourth eviction with the same property manager, it had just got frustrating. So we had just renovated the house. I think we spent like $12,000, put in upgraded AC, put in tile throughout, doing some, you know, just some upkeep and maintenance. And we're thinking we're gonna make good money. We're like, hey, the rent's gonna go up. We're gonna get our money back. So we give it to the property manager, and you know, same thing. We're back with another eviction. We're losing money again. So we spoke to her, and we're like, hey, you know, like, what's going on? And I think the turning point was actually she gave, after they damaged our house, when they returned it, she gave them the security deposit back.
No way.
And yeah, it was like it was stressful. And so at that point, we went to her boss, the broker, and we we're like, hey man, like, what's going on? So they made her actually pay us out of pocket. She returned the money to us personally out of pocket. And so we were able to recoup the money. We put it back into the house. Again, another break even. We're just breaking even. But you know, I at that point I told my wife, like, hey man, I could do better. Like, I can do this by myself. We don't need help to screw this up. So she's like, if you think you can, then let's try. So at that point, there's a lot of things I didn't know, but I had the will. And at that time, just to be clear, like, we were both in the military, so we both had full-time jobs. And I remember posting it in different places. I found this app. It was called like Tenant or something like that. And I like listed it on Tenant. And like, I was getting crazy calls. Like, I was just getting calls and calls. And then the good thing is, like, if you're an amateur investor or amateur realtor or property manager, it does the screening process, it does the rent, it does all that for you. So I went in there, I kind of got a generic lease, and I kind of had my first tenant, and we took it from there. Section 8 was my first tenant. And if you really care to know, I hate Section 8. I will personally never do it again. And I know a lot of people swear by it, and they're like, the money comes in. I actually, now I've been doing this a while, I prefer to stay away from low income tenants.
Got it. Well, thanks for your service. Thank you and your wife for your service. And hope you had a good Memorial Day. And talk to us more about Section 8. You know, it's interesting, right? There seems to be 2 sides, right? Some is like, all my units are Section 8 or a percentage of Section 8, but Section 8 is great. And then some don't like it that much. So tell us more about your experience and why you're not a fan of Section 8.
So in 10 years, I've done 2 evictions, right? Ironically, they were both Section 8. That might be a coincidence. I'm not sure. But I noticed when I have lower income people, I get a lot more complaints. So they'll break something and they'll say, oh, no, it was like that, right? And it's just, a lot of times it's hard to prove, fair wear and tear, right? Was that socket broken? Was this like, no, it's just hard. So I seem to have like a lot of more of those issues when I had Section 8 people in my units. As we started getting away from that and we started increasing our rents, I honestly, in most times, I rent my properties 10% more than the average person in the area. I kind of go around. I still, to this day, I go into unit after unit, apartments, wherever. I schedule showings and just to see like what they're looking like, what their rents are, and how do they line up against my units. And that's kind of a trick of the trade I use to kind of see. It's all competition at the end of the day and to see like where I stand. And I just always make sure that when we list our properties, like mine might be a little more, but at the end of the day, mine is like 10 times nicer than the one that's competing against.
I love that. So you mentioned 10% above average, and we're living in times where people are trying to save every penny they can get, right? And so how do you get a good flow of applicants and get people to go with your unit? I know you mentioned they're typically nicer than comparable units. Is that the main thing, or are there other things you do that you feel set your units apart and where someone will be willing to pay a little bit more the market?
So I generally gut units when I go in. I tear it down to the bone, new plumbing, new everything in there is brand new. And so what I've done is I've mitigated issues. When people walk in, a lot of time the curiosity is, why is his more than everybody else's? And a lot of the stuff they can't see, the behind the walls thing, right? Nobody will know I tore all the plumbing. Nobody will know I ran all the electrical. Like they'll never know that. But when they walk in the unit, the AC's on, they see stainless steel appliances, they see granite countertops. They're like, this is nice. Right, the guy down the street, he's not doing granite countertops. He's doing Formica, right? His cabinets aren't, modern style with I do sometimes white and gray or combination, one each or just one solid color dependent. So when they walk in, it sells itself. My last apartment, I was in Dallas for a while with my family, so we just moved to, and I couldn't show it, and I had over 100 inquiries on that unit.
Wow.
People wanted to see it, and I literally couldn't show it.
Wow. Love it. All right. So you got rid of the terrible property manager. You took matters into your own hands and started turning things around. Where did things go from there? How did your real estate journey evolve from that point?
Okay, so we had those two units. At that time, I was pretty hands off. It was just kind of everything was kind of happening. I was paying people to do everything. It was actually smooth sailing. Then I started reading a lot more like self-education, right? So I think I read, I got to give a shout out to the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Everybody I meet, I tell them to read that book. It's life-changing, right? And then I read a lot of Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the basics, right? And so I went in there, I read these books and I say, hey, we're investing in our TSPs. Like we have all this money sitting in our TSP and like, it's never going to hit $1 million. Like it's just never will. Right. I mean, you could Google TSP millionaires and stuff like that, but those people deliberately put they max out every year and we still got to live. So it just wasn't realistic for us anyway. So what we did was we took a TSP loan. So we took a loan against our TSP.
What's a TSP, by the way?
Thrift savings plan. It's a retirement plan.
Got it. Okay.
And so we took a TSP loan each. My wife and I each we took a loan, and then we did something kind of different, right? So it was I got to give a credit to my wife. I thought she was just trying to stab me in the back. I was like, oh man, she's trying to leave me, right? But I got to give her credit because what she said was, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to apply for these properties individually, not as a team, not together. What we're going to do is I'm going to buy one. I'm going to use both our incomes. You're going to buy one. You're going to use both our incomes. So they qualify us for more. So we did that. And we were able to buy 2 units. At the time we met a realtor, and I still have the same realtor to this day. She's amazing. And she helped us get 2 units. We both bought single family homes. At that time, I was doing a lot of research and I really wanted a duplex. Like I just really wanted, I was like, hey man, I've done the research. It doesn't make sense to buy a single family home. The single family home I bought at that time was actually, it had a detached garage. And my plan was, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna buy this and I'm gonna convert the detached garage into a rental space. That way I get my 2 units. Unfortunately was unable to do that because of where the garage sat in comparison to the house. But yeah.
Got it.
So yeah, we got those, we bought those 2 units, minor fixes, they were in decent shape. We were able to get them both rented in less than 30 days. And we immediately started making money. So we're at 4 units at that point.
Got it. And were those 2 in El Paso?
Yeah, so we're both in the military, and so our goals always stick together. So we always went overseas, and then we came back there because it was just a place we could both go with ease. It's a place where people aren't fighting to go, right? Everyone wants to go to Hawaii. Everyone wants to go, Washington. Everybody's trying to go to those nice places, and I'm like, hey, can I get to El Paso? And they're like, yeah, sure. Like, okay, dummy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it worked.
Got it. So at that point, are you working with a property manager? Are you kind of just doing it yourself and paying people to
so at that point,
do different things?
We're still self-managing. At that point, I'm pretty handy. So at that point, we kind of made a decision like, hey, to get the most of our money, we need to be a little more hands-on. And everything says, don't touch it, pay somebody. But then you look at the, like, you're making a couple $100 here and there, and you're like, I don't want to spend it back right there. It kind of defeats the purpose, right? And so no, at that point, I was doing like most of my maintenance and stuff like that. Everything was a one-man show.
Let's spend some time on that. I'm glad that you mentioned that. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, if you're self-managing, you have another job. You should outsource to a property manager because you should value your time and all those things. What are your thoughts on that? Because you've had both experiences. So tell me about why you choose to self-manage.
I think I did the math one day when a property manager pays for itself. And I think I read the book on managing apartment properties. And what they spoke about is 60 units. When a property manager becomes worthwhile, you have to be at 60 units. So although people say like it's a job and stuff like that, a lot of times, when I would tell people like I self-manage because like it's easy, right? I put quality tenants in there, so I minimize my calls. I also use a program where I get work orders. Nobody calls my phone in the middle of the night, right? I mean, you could try, but it's not gonna ring, right? So everything is done through the work order process. I look at the work orders and then I determine emergency or not. And I'll be super honest with you. When I started, everything was emergency, right? A pipe broke, we gotta get somebody out there. This happened, we gotta get somebody out there, right? And then I start paying those emergency fees. And so some of the money you're making, it goes right back into like those emergency funds. And you're like, man, now we don't do so many emergencies. A pipe breaks, unfortunately, we're gonna cut the water off. We'll get a plumber for you in the morning. We'll take care of that. Water heater breaks. Hey, I understand what you're saying. We're gonna cut the water off. We're gonna plumber out there in the morning, and you're saving like $1,000 just by doing that. Wow. And it might be a small inconvenience, but it's not gonna affect the tenant that much.
Got it. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think it's important to have people on the show who do both, right, or who have had both experiences. But I it's just interesting hearing the different points of view. So I'm glad you shared yours. And quite frankly, in my opinion, unless the property is just a dump, you're probably not gonna get that many calls, if any. I mean, you can easily go months without getting any calls, right? Especially
I go years without calls,
right?
Like
especially
honestly,
if it's in good shape,
Yeah. I have a property tenants have been there 5 years and I haven't gotten one call, and I go and I check them every now and then. Like, anything good? And like, oh no, it's minor stuff. Anything, we fix it, and they're older couple. And so like with them, it was actually kind of harder when I had to start raising their rents. Because it's like, man, they never call, But at the same time, they were way under market rents and we had to be realistic. And that's when we switched our model to like, hey, we're gonna be a little higher than everyone else. But yeah, man. Yeah, I believe in self-management. It's worked for me. And I continue to do it.
Definitely. Awesome. So how did things continue to grow? So you got those 2 units in a very creative way, which I think people should write down. You took a loan against your retirement plan. It's not professional advice, but it's something you want to consider. And you got those 2 units. And once those were established, like what were your thoughts then? Did you go using the same method? Did you pick up some other methods of acquiring properties? What happened next?
So we had those 2 units, well, those 4 units at that time. And my realtor calls me about almost exactly a year later, and she says, "Hey, Kevin, I got a deal for you." And I was like, "Oh, what is it?" She says, "A duplex." She's like, "I know you really wanted one. I know I couldn't get one for you, but this is a duplex." And I was like, "Hey, man, it was just like we just spent a ton of money last year, or we're just trying to recoup." She's like, "I tell you what, it's an off-market deal. Come look at it. If you don't want it, I'll put it on the market. No loss to you." So I said, "Okay." So we go look at it. I immediately fall in love. This thing had screamed distress all over it. It was unfortunately, a mom had passed away,
Hmm.
and her kids were just so in distraught. They could not deal with it. So they just abandoned the house. They had to pay taxes on it. They hadn't dealt with it in any kind of way. And so it sat for about like 4 or 5 years. It sat
Wow.
vacant. And it was like, it was just too good to be true for me. That's an unfortunate situation. And I was like, "Man, what do they want for this?" And she's like, "Guess." And I was like, 100, and even at 100, like I was like, I'll buy it. I'll figure it out. And she said, "No, um, they want 58." I think it was like some odd number like that. They want 58,000. I said, I looked at my wife. I said, "Hey, we'll take it," you know. And she says, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Yeah, we'll take it." She's like, "Yeah," and my wife's on board. And so we pulled some money from our savings. We took a personal loan. I love personal loans, by the way. We took a personal loan, and then we bought it cash. We also took enough to we could rehab it. So we rehabbed it, and I think right now each unit rents for the 2 bedroom side rents for about 1,100, and with the 1 bedroom rents for about 900. So it does pretty decent. Not bad at all. And I think our payment on that loan was like $600 or something like that. So
Wow.
it's like a no brainer.
Yeah. What was the after repair value on that property?
Right now, I think at the time it was about 130,000. Right now it's about 190 something thousand. It go like we just had it appraised when I did a cash out. Yeah.
Wow. How much work do you think it needed?
So like we literally spent about 20,000. At the time I met like the most amazing guy, the AC guy. He was generous. I have like a bubbly personality. People like me. I don't know what it is, but I was getting quotes ridiculous, and this guy shows up and he's like, "What's your budget for AC?" And I said, "For both of them?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Dude, I need for like 7K." And he's like, 7,000? I was like, "Just what I got." And he goes, "I'll do it." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I'll do it for 7K." Dude, that's like my lucky day. So I bought these. He came in, he put the units in, and that gave me AC. That's my biggest individual expense. The next biggest expense was flooring. I did all the paint. At that time, I did all the work myself. I was like a one-man show. I had a buddy, Mark. Mark always showed up and he always helped me, and we were like doing it together. And we turned the first unit, then we it rented immediately.
Wow.
Then we went over to the 2 bedroom side. That would require a little more work, and then we turned that one, and they rent immediately. Like they have no problems renting. So super lucky, man.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So you mentioned you took a personal loan in addition to using some of your own personal funds. So as far as like paying it back, do you refinance to pay that back? Do you like use cash flow to pay off that
Oh,
payments? Like how do you
oh,
structure
oh,
that?
always a debate in my house. So at that time, I wanted to do a cash out refi and
Uh-huh.
just like get our money back. And my wife did not. She was like, "Hey, it's a paid for property. It's paying for itself. Like we're not really paying for it at all. And it's just gonna work out better for us in the long run." So we kept it that way. It eventually been a good choice eventually. Like it worked out. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. And then as far as like personal loans, like how do you approach like going to the bank? Are you looking for like certain amounts? Like are these banking relationships you've built? How, if someone wants to use that as part of funding a deal, like what would you suggest?
I love it. And I say that because like I've done it several ways, right? As I told you earlier, I used to do fix and flips as well, right? And so I would literally go to I'd go to like 3 credit unions. Credit unions, I think they're more easier to do with. They're more generous. So I use like, Navy Fed, a couple other ones. And I just say like, hey, I need to take a personal loan, and just like they wouldn't really ask why, but they give you like 50 grand. Right.
Wow.
So if you get like, if you go to each one like simultaneously, and you probably put 3 at the same time, it's like the same thing with a credit pull, right? You do like 3 at the same time. And then so you have, if it's 90,000, 100,000 in cash, like right there. Right. And like, so a trick I do is if I want to get a personal loan and I know I'm going to have it for 6 months, I take a little extra. And what I do is I set up for auto pay and I leave that extra in that account. Right. So if I pull the money out, I buy the house cash, I do the repairs, I'm not paying anything out of pocket. The money I borrowed is also the one paying for the repairs. Is that the best method? I don't know. It's called creative financing, man. You got to be creative. So when I did that, I was able to, flip houses, no hard money, and I was able to walk out. And when I paid the loans back, paid the credit cards back, everything was mine. In the end, and sometimes the profit wasn't that great. If it's like 40,000 or 30,000, but there are people who don't make that a year. And if you're doing it 2-3 times a year, man, you're on top of the world.
Definitely, definitely. And so that kind of method, I'm sure, takes a lot of discipline, and you got to know like what you're doing and things of that nature. So what is some advice you would give to someone to like mitigate some of that risk in defaulting, or not paying the cards off or personal loans off? What are some tips you would give?
I think you hit it on the head. Is discipline, is knowing where you want to be, and patience. I teach my kids all the time the difference between poor people and rich people is patience. Like there's a lot of things I want, right? And I delay my gratification, and I literally take my time and I pay off everything, those business loans or those personal loans, and I take the little bit that's left over, and then I reinvest it over and over again. I reinvest it to buy properties. I reinvest it to, I actually have a Toro business as well. So like I will do anything not to have a traditional 9-to-5 job at this point in my life. But I think you're right. Just be disciplined and stick to the numbers. Run your numbers over and over. It's always really good to get an outside source. If you're not sure, I recommend getting somebody from the outside to take a quick look and say, hey man, these numbers don't make sense, or I see you made a mistake here, or even using a different calculator for your rehab, and just that's about it.
Definitely. And you did mention some fix and flipping. When did you get into that?
Again, I love money, man. So I did all this was in the military. So I had a full-time job, and it gets exhausting, man. It's just like, honestly, I don't know how I did it sometimes looking back at it, because I worked like 12, 13-hour days. And then after working 12, 13 hours, I would go and like bang hammers and nails and put in flooring and paint and all this stuff. My buddy and I, we would just like literally team up and we would do that like one at a time. And looking back at it, I was exhausted. But in the end state, it got me to where I am today. So it was definitely worth it. I got to fix and flips because I think it was just a raising capital thing. Like my end game is always rental properties, the passive income side of it. But when you're using up all your creative financing ideas and your money's tied up, then you have to find a new way to do it. And you got to find a way to get the money. And that's why I went to fix and flips.
Got it. And as far as like financing those fix and flips, was it the same strategies like cards, personal
Man,
loans?
I'll show you a stack of cards, right? Like I'm a big card dude. Like this is,
How many do you have?
that,
My
but
goodness. It's like 30.
like, that's not even all of them. I have like 30 cards. But so like as I got older and wiser, right? I got a lot away from personal credit. So now I'm like a business credit guy, right? So everything I do is on business credit. And that was like a game changer. Like business credit is such a game changer. I recommend everybody start an LLC, even if you're not sure. I think that was like one of my wife's first contributions to our business. As far as, you know, I was like, hey, I want to start a business. She's like, well, I'm gonna start an LLC, and we did the legal Zoom thing initially, and it worked, man. We were like, oh, okay, like, you know, and we didn't know how much it would grow. Like if I knew how much it'd grow, I would have changed my name. I hate my business name.
Are you looking for a community of like-minded individuals and access to experts in real estate?
Yeah.
Are you interested in real estate but need more support and guidance?
You know who it is?
The Black Real Estate Dialogue presents the Real Estate Investing Community. No matter how much or how little real estate experience you have, we've created a community for you because your perspective is important. All right, tell me, where's the number one place where you can do Q&A with experienced guest speakers 2 times per month? How about unlimited access to past guest speakers' recordings? What about a private Slack channel to engage in daily discussion with everybody in the community to share resources and support each other? Head on over to blackrealestatedialogue.com. That's blackrealestatedialogue.com. It's the real estate investing community presented by the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Come join us today.
We didn't. I think that first, my first duplex we bought cash was the first property we had in our LLC, and like I felt like I was on top of the world because you always hear like put everything in your business name, put everything in your business name. I was like, oh, I got property in my business name. Like I was excited, right? And but I didn't know how much it was to come in the future. So fast forward, you know, the properties had become like manageable. We were comfortable, you know, and we kind of focused on our careers, my wife and I, and so we took like, I want to say like a 6-year break off of growing. And so at that time we had the 4 properties, the 4 single families and the duplex. And so I think at the time I had just did my last fix and flip, and my wife said, she's like, oh, I want to sell one of the single families. And I was like, yeah, okay. And it's the one that's like kind of sitting vacant the longest. It rents for like 3 years and then it sits vacant for like 6 months. I don't know why. It's just weird. So she said she wants to sell it. So we went ahead and prepared for sale. And that's just when the market was, you know, like this is 2019, 2020. The market's just shifting, right? And so we sold it. I think it worked out about 80,000. And so that's our first buy, right? That's my wife's first property she bought on her own. And so to have somebody live in it for like 6 years and pay it down to where you could walk out with 80K. I mean, that's just like, if that don't tell you what real estate can do, right? And so like, boom, like we had the cash in hand, you know, and yeah, so that's kind of where we took it. But at that time I was getting ready to transition from the military myself. And my goal was always to be on the multifamily game. Like I was like, hey man, I want apartments. If you talk to my mom today, my mom will tell you, oh, he always talks about apartments. It's what he wants. Because like just having my duplex was such a game changer, right? I know there are people like who focus strictly in single family, and that's cool. Like I've done both, right? But just seeing my duplex, like when my single family went vacant, like, you know, people say, well, my single family is paid for, but like my money stopped coming in, right? 100% of my income stopped coming in. So even if it was paid for, like I just lost all my money, just stopped coming in. Versus my multifamily or my duplex in that case, when it was vacant, like one side, the money was still coming in. Like the money never stopped. I never had it where both times it was vacant on both sides. So for me, it was like, hey, this is a no-brainer, man. So we just kept it at what it was. And at that point, I got a couple single family deals. I think I had a couple off to my buddy. I was here, I'm off single families. I don't want to deal with it. And honestly, if it wasn't up to my wife, if it was up to me only and not my wife and I would have been sold them, right? But I'm glad I didn't. And I'll tell you why. So at that time, the market was just picking up. Everybody was selling. House prices going crazy. I was thinking about selling, but you know, at the same time, I wanted to grow. Mm-hmm. And so I started doing driving for dollars. So I started driving around door to door, looking at multifamily properties. I had seen a for sale sign. And this is how I ended up with this property I'm in now. I saw a for sale sign, and I called the owner and she said, hey, I can show it to you tomorrow. So she said it has 8 units, it's ready to go. And I was like, I'm excited, man. I'm like, I call my wife, I'm like, hey man, I think I'm getting a deal. It's got 8 units. And so she's like, okay. And so I go to see it. And it was very far from the truth. So it did have a storefront, and that's one of the first things I saw. They had started to do some remodeling upstairs. There was no cash flow. There was zero cash flow, and it just needed too much work. So I said, I can't buy this. But when I remember when I called her, I said, I'm calling about your property for sale, and she said, which one? So I said, hey, well, you said which one? So which other properties do you have? And she's like, oh, just a 4 unit. And I say, well, let me see it. I might be interested in that one. And so we saw the 4 unit. I mean, I wish I'd uploaded some pictures, and it was rough, man. It was rough, but I love fixer uppers, man. And so I literally went in and I walked it, and she let me see just the level she was staying on. She let me see the 4th floor. And she said, I can schedule, if you're interested in buying it, I can schedule it. I said, well, how much do you want? She said, 280,000. I said, man, it's just not worth 280,000. And then she said, there's a lot out front, the lot's included. And so the good thing about that property was it was close to downtown, close to the baseball stadium, close to Airbnb, like a lot of people Airbnb in that area. So I was like, man, it has potential. Let me see if they want to flex on the price. So we walked it the next day. We literally walked the property, and I was like, hey, I'm interested. I cannot meet your 280,000. She said, well, what do you mean? I said, it's just not worth it. It needs all new windows. Every unit has to be renovated. The rents are real low. I think she had the rents at like $600. $600 was the average. I think the highest rent was like $650. And then one was $625, and then 2 for $550. And I said, look, I can't support this, And she said, well, what do you think is fair? And I said, I could do 220. And she says, you could talk to my sister. If you could get her for 220, then you can have it. And I talked to her sister, and she said 260. And I said, no, we can't do 260. And after about like 10 minutes of conversation, hey, I'm a soldier, I'm retiring. And she loves soldiers, surprisingly. And I find out later from their realtor. So she wouldn't deal with my realtor. She said only her realtor. And they're not paying realtor fees. So she's like, if you hire your realtor, you're paying your realtor fees. And it's not a good deal. Even though I love my realtor, it just didn't make financial sense. So my realtor, amazing. She walks away from the deal. She just said, I want you to have the deal. It's a good deal. I want you to have it. So we settled at 240 is what I think our closing price was. So far I've renovated one of the 4 units. Last month, I used my Airbnb. Last month I did 1,700, which is almost, it was doing 550 before. So that's beyond triple what it was doing as a whatchamacallit. And because we're coming to the peak season, the rents are going up. But I'm here right now just overseeing some remodels right now, so it's not Airbnb, but can't have it all.
Definitely. Are the other tenants still in the other units?
I actually just got one of them out. And so that one we're converting to it's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. We're actually remodeling right now to be a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And it was rented for about, I think, that was the highest one, 650. We're projecting at least 1,200, 1,300 minimum.
Wow. So you double that just like that.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd probably do way better as an Airbnb. I do not like Airbnb.
Tell us about it. Tell us about it.
You always say that. Reason being, I just had some bad experiences, right? So like one of the things that happened is like the Wi-Fi went down in the neighborhood, right? And I got a notice, and I was like, okay. I let the lady know, and she just, like, at the time the guest was in there, and she was just calling me and yelling at me and telling me like, you need to fix it, you need to fix this now. And it was like literally out of my control. There's like nothing I could do. And I sent her the screenshot. I was like, hey, Spectrum, they're down in the area. And she's like, I'm gonna have to cancel this Airbnb. You said you had good internet. And I was like, I do have business internet. It's like the fastest internet there is, And so man, so that's like one of the first thing, right? And then I had a guest that didn't want to leave, but
They
like
didn't
I
want to
use
leave. What do you mean?
so I booked a guest, or the guest booked, and then I thought everything was good. So my cleaning crew didn't notify me of any issues. I'm assuming everything is good. So somebody went to book. So before I approved it, I just reached out to my cleaning crew and I was like, hey, I know you might have had a late checkout. Did that guess, is everything good? And so he sends me a thumbs up. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I approve it, right? And then he calls me. He's like, oh, I don't know why I sent you a thumbs up. He's like, the guest never left. And I said, what? I said, David, what do you mean? He said the guest never left. He said, I went to clean and the guest said, we're not leaving. And so the cool thing is I have these locks. And so everything I do, I program, like when you book, I program the last 4 digits of your phone number, and it's only good for the time you're there. So when your booking ends, it ends. Like if you come back in, your code's not going to work. So the only good thing that happened was the guests left, and they left all their stuff here, and they planned to come back. But when they went to come back, the front door lock wouldn't work. And then the interior door lock, we didn't made that far, wouldn't have worked either. So I called my cleaning crew and I'm like, I'm in Dallas at the time. So I called my cleaning crew. I'm like, hey man, is everything good? He's like, oh, I just want in trouble. And I said, look, he can't get in. I said, he can't get in. The only way he gets in is if you let him in. So he's like, what do you want me to do? I was like, hey man, this is an eviction. Take his stuff and put it on the side of the road. I contact Airbnb. I let them know what's going on. But they were like, oh, we're going to send him messages. I was like, hey, we're non-threatening, but at the same time, this is Texas. I have a right to protect my property. So please tell the guests that we don't want any trouble. Just take his stuff and go. And while my cleaning crew was getting it cleaned up, they came and they got their stuff and they left. So with no conflict. But that's why I don't like Airbnb, man. Like I could make more money. And and I have an Airbnb mentor, and he tells me, he's like, man, you can make triple the amount of money, 4 times the amount of money. And he's 100% right. You can make way more money on the property, but it's way more headache, and I don't think I want to deal with that. Like my goal for real estate was passive income. And so Airbnb, Turo, those things will work. And I wish I knew that before I sign up for those things, because now I have 5 Turo cars and I want to sell them all.
Yeah.
It's work.
Got it. Well, I think the benefit of being in business and real estate or otherwise, you can try different things, right? And you see what you like and what you don't like, right?
Exactly.
And the other benefit is that, like, the unit that you're in, you already know what you can get for a long-term rental. So, if you don't want Airbnb anymore, I'm pretty sure you can get a long-term tenant in there pretty quickly.
Oh yeah. I mean, people want to be here. The view is amazing. This is one of the things that attracted me to the property. When I saw it, I was like, hey man, I was looking out the window. I was like, what? I went out to the balcony and I was like, this is all included? And she's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, it's no brainer to me.
Definitely. So something that we spoke about off camera that I would like to dive more into is you said that you can sometimes see gentrification before it's there. So talk to us about some of those indicators, like when you're driving for dollars, like what are some things that stand out that tell you, all right, this area is going to turn around eventually?
So I look for like the newer big name stores as they move into the neighborhood. I look for the people that move into the neighborhood, right? I look for change. Right. Where my 8 unit is, the other property I bought simultaneously, I bought this one. They actually consider like a really bad neighborhood. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh, I don't know, this has got a bad stigma in the neighborhood. And then I walked it. It was quiet. It was peaceful. Then I drove over to the main street, and there was like a neighborhood Walmart there. Right. There's like newer, nicer stores. The gas stations are nicer. Like you can see the neighborhood is renovating, right? But the rents, the people who own the properties, they haven't done their due diligence. They have not fixed their rentals, right? And so my 8 unit, for example, as we talked about, it was in for like $450. And I remember when I was looking to close, I told my realtor, like, I'll probably get like about $650, $700 a unit. And she was like, there's no way. She's like, the neighborhood can't support it. And I was like, I don't care about this neighborhood. I care about the people I will bring to the neighborhood. Because I truly believe if you put a quality product on the market, like you will get the right people in there. My screening process is my screening process. 3 times the income. That's why I hate Section 8, because most people on Section 8 don't make 3 times the income, right? So like 3 times the income, that's one of my requirements. Credit score over 650, that's one of my requirements. And there's like a couple other things I use to assess an individual tenant, and those are all laid out in front of them. So if when they do their application, and I send them the approval or declination letters, I tell them why. Hey, you didn't meet it because of this reason. That's part of the process. But when I look for what's happening around. So this property might not have caught up yet, but everything is happening around it. It's gonna bring itself into that neighborhood, and that's what's happening now. Again, my same thing, man. Granite counters, people love it, right? I'm a big fan of vinyl plank laminate floors, LVP. I'm a big fan of that. I love stainless steel appliances. I like grays. I put grays in all my apartments, man. If you look behind me, it's gray, right?
Yeah,
I put grays in all my apartment, right? And so all those things, when people come in, they're like, my contractor is like, where do you get these color schemes from, man? Pinterest, dude. I'm not even creative. Like, you know what I mean? Like, gotta get Pinterest. I'm like, I want that color, right? And that's what I've been using, and it's worked, man. It's been like a no fail. And so when I told my realtor, hey, I'm looking to get $650 a unit on 700, she's like, just the neighborhood can't support it. Currently we're renting those units for like 800 up. One of the cool things about my 8-unit process, my 8-unit complex, is when I walked it, I saw there was 2 units that were clearly 2 bedrooms, and they were like, no, they're all 1 bedrooms. And I was like, but that one has a room attached to it. It's like, no, it's 1 bedroom. And these things rent for like $450, man. And I was like, so we just finished our first 1 bedroom. It rents for $900. Sorry, our first 2-bed. It rents for $900. We're gonna do a second one. We're gonna try for a 2-bed, 2-bath, and we're looking for $1,100 on it in the same neighborhood. And the worst part is, man, I'm gonna get it. Like, I'm gonna get it. So.
Yeah. Love it. So talk to us about the acquisition of that 8-unit property, because prior to that, it was single, duplex, and then a 4-unit. Talk to us about getting to an even larger complex.
So I bought my 4-unit and my 8-unit simultaneously. And I think I told you, I was driving for Dallas. I found my 4-unit. The 8-unit had just been in the market for a while. I think I had seen it and I just wasn't paying attention. Then my wife sent it to me, and I was just like, the neighborhood, I don't want to look. She's just go look at it. She's like, go look at it. And so I look at it, and I see nothing but potential for growth. So I lock both of these properties up, right? I have this thing I do. It's like, the money is the easiest part of the equation. I truly believe that. Like, I've never not gotten a deal for money, right? I've only not gotten a deal because I passed up on it, or I waited too long, or something went wrong, right? And so I literally locked both of these properties up. So I got them both on the contract, both for earnest money. But I had no way of paying for them, right? and so, so I reached out to my realtor. I was like, hey, I know you know some people, and she got me with some people who got me with some other people, and that crap fell through, man. The guy, he was doing it, but his bank was using like a lot of red tape, and I'm real big on events, so I went to like a finance event. And I randomly got talking to like the vice president of business of a bank, and someone I knew told him like, hey, this guy's an investor. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah. He's like, you got anything you need money for right now? And I was like, yeah, like I do, right? And he's like, what do you have? I said, I have these 2 complexes that I'm trying to purchase. And he's like, well, do you have the down payment? I was like, I don't want to use my money. I said, I don't want to buy money. I said, I have 4 properties right now that I owe way less than their worth. Right, I owe like way less than I'm like getting ready to pay these things off damn near, and like I want to take that and I want to purchase these properties. He gives me his card, says come see me tomorrow. It was super cool. So I went to go see him tomorrow. The bank was actually closed, but he had somebody see me through the back. We go in. Wow. I show him the deal, and he's like, oh yeah, we can make this happen, right? So at that time, and another trick I use to lock the deal in, because people want to see proof of funds. So I have a hard money lender. I will literally go to the hard money lender and tell him like, hey, I'm thinking about buying this. Can you fund it? And so he would just put down. He would just give me the letter. Boom, and I would use that to secure the property. And so when the seller is like, oh, this guy's gonna pay this with a hard money lender, I was like, I can't afford that kind of interest, right? So I'm like, I was literally on my hustle to find these deals. And so from the time I met, the banker Rick just changed my life, man. He was just like, yeah, let's go, let's make these deals happen. Your numbers are making sense, your equity is great. And I was like, Rick, I don't want to spend any money, and on top of that, I need money to fix these properties. And he's like, see, dude, you have the money. So I think like 120,000 to fix the properties. I acquired these two properties with $0 out of pocket, just straight
Wow.
equity.
Wow. Love it. Creative Finance of Max.
Dude, that's like my middle name. Like I stay in the hustle with the creative financing.
Definitely, man. I love it. Love it. So we spoke about this off camera as well, but this is our first time having someone from the El Paso, Texas market. So can you tell us more about the market, more about what you feel makes it a great market to invest in, and just what's happening in the city right now?
El Paso it's kind of like a mid-sized town, right? I always think they always I think the term we use 5 years behind of everything, except for the market growth. They were definitely on point with that one. And so although I think I stated earlier, the taxes are a little higher here, the houses were cheaper, right? So I give you an example. The house I lived in for 10 years, I paid 175,000 for this house. It's a 3,800 square foot house, right? 5-bedroom, 3-bath, right? I sold it the other day for 360, right? Wow. So for that, we were able to grow with the market because we bought 10 years ago, 12 years ago. As the market slowly overcame, we grew with the market. And so with our pay downs and everything, El Paso has been nothing but good to us from a business perspective. So I recommend the market. People, I have realtors say me all the time, the taxes are higher and you have the net worth. Why don't you take it somewhere else? And I say, one, it gave me my shot. But when I start looking at other places, the property, the taxes are lower, the properties are higher. So I'm losing the money either way somewhere else. Here, why I'm comfortable is I pretty much have a team, I have my plumber, I have my contractor, I have these people where I'm not stressed, where if, because we sold our house and we moved to Dallas. So now if something happens, I can just send a text message hey, can you look at this for me? Hey, check this out. Go look at this for me. And it actually made my life a lot easier. So building a team is always the hardest part. I recommend before you even start, build a team. I wish somebody had told me that. But once you build that team and you can trust them, it makes your life easier.
Definitely. So now you're technically a long distance investor. How's that like for you?
I don't like it. That's why I'm here right now.
How long's it been?
We moved to Dallas in October.
Oh, so very new.
Yeah. And so, man, it's super different, right? I say that because in the military, what I was known for was kind of like micromanagement, right? Just kind of sitting over people, making sure everything's done right. And so now for me to do it from a distance, it's hard. And so because it's a lot of trust. So sometimes your lead contractor, he'll send you a picture, right? And he'd be like, oh, I'm complete, I need to get paid. And I'm like, boom, Venmo, done, right? And then I send my cleaning guy and he's like, hey, did you see this work that was done? And I'm like, nah, can you send me a picture? And he sent me a picture from a different angle. And I'm like, dude, why? And he's like, hold on, I'll go back and fix it. He's like, I'll go back and fix it, but why? Why don't you just fix it right the first time, right? And so now, because I'm actually here doing 4 remodels, we have that one I'm making a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I'm doing 2 more of those apartments at my 8 unit, and I'm doing some minor repairs on my my duplex, one of my duplex sides. I just wanted to be here to oversee it. It's not the best use of my time. There's 100 things I'd rather be doing. But at the end of the day, I think what helped me more than anything is I built relationships. I built relationships with people. I built trust. And I think from a distance, you can't do that as well and as fast. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. So, man, what are your future plans for the real estate business? What are some things you want to do?
So more multifamilies, man. I'm actually working a deal right now with a 10-unit owner finance. So I'm super excited to take a leap into that. Because I already have the formula for that. Same neighborhood, same everything, rents are low, nothing but room for growth. And then I actually was thinking about something different. I kind of, this home health things kind of stumbled upon me. So assisted living, I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah. Both of my grandmothers were in some sort of assisted living nursing home situation.
Okay, so I just walked in an assisted living facility the other day, and the guys were going to do owner finance with me.
Wow.
And I wanted to learn that and see, but it's you know, I was always been told like find a niche and stick with it, right? And like my niche has worked, and so distressed properties specifically my niche. I love it. I always tell people it's like they're like, why do you buy broken down properties? It's like buying sale. It's like buying stuff on sale, right? You literally buy stuff on sale, and then you put like look at my 8 unit, right? It's tripled in value, right? From where I started, and it's just going up. I think man, like it's I don't know, man. I love the fact that we can do so much for real estate, and I just honestly want to try it now. I'm also, oh yeah, man, how could I forget? I'm also doing new builds in Dallas, right? I can't get it
Wow.
for real estate. Yeah, so like in the Dallas area right now, I'm working with a developer, and we're doing like a couple new builds, and I'm excited about that. Like I'm doing like crowdfunding. I'm reaching out to people trying to get their money, trying to show them like, hey, this is how it's going to work for you. The hard part with that is trust, man. People are like, people don't like to let their money go.
Hmm.
But I always tell people like, hey man, I thank God for people who leave their money in the bank, right? Because like I'll borrow it. Like I love borrowing money, and I buy nice things with it, and like not a nice car. Like I'll buy a house, I'll buy, I bought 5 cars using business credit, and they cash flow really well. I'm all about, gaining more cash flow. So I'm 40, I'm retired, in both aspects, from like having a traditional job and um sorry, yeah, having a traditional job and having my income come in. So but I work harder now than I've ever worked, right? So like I have my units, and they keep me full time, they keep me occupied, they keep me young and excited. And then the bad thing is though, like we just had our last baby. I'm here being away from that.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a lot, it's good and bad in both. But at the end of the day, man, building real estate, it's like it's a dream come true. And to see where I came from, sometimes I look back and it's very humbling. And I thank God every day for the opportunity to continue to do what I do.
Love it, man. And then where's the portfolio at now? I think when you spoke before, it was like 16, 17 or something like that.
17
Yeah,
units. The
amazing.
three single families, the duplex, the the fourplex, and the single family, the 8. So it comes out to 17 units. Man, I can't begin to go over the numbers with you, but like when I sometimes I sit and just put like how much of my personal cash has gone into that. It's not a lot, man. It's
Yeah,
not a lot. I just use a lot of creative financing. A lot of it paid for itself. It continues to pay for itself. And right now, my wife and I, we're just like, what's next? My wife has a traditional job, and my hat's off to her. Somebody's got to do it. But I will not be the one to do it. I just want to continue to grow the business and see what's next. But yeah, man. So like the assisted living facility is got my attention.
yeah,
But I don't know. It's one of those things like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But it
yeah,
just kind of fell into my lap.
definitely. You have to let me know how that works out.
Yeah. I'll let you know if I do it or not. But yeah. So what I encourage people is risk, take risk. That's one like the biggest things in the community we don't take risk on. Learn patience. Hey man, I like nice shoes too. But most days I wear $20 pair of boots from Kmart, right? Or from Walmart. And because I'm on construction sites all day, right? Because even when I'm not here, I'm in Dallas with a new build. So I'm on construction sites like all the time. So and invest wisely, man. That's like I think the number one I tell people. Everybody, especially now, I can't tell you, like I think I lost like 36K last year in crypto, just last year, and it was just like a bad, I got some bad advice, and without doing my due diligence, I jumped on it. So I was able to write it off, thank God. But invest wisely. Just do your research, do your own research. Don't just the first person call you say, hey, I made 20 grand, jump on this with me. You know, that's something I tell people all the time. It's like, hey man, just make sure you invest in wisely. And I just watch my net worth grow every day. My income, man, it's every time I do a remodel, I get excited because I just know, hey man, it's one step closer to the goal um never ever time my wife. So my wife said if I make an X amount of dollars more a month, she'll stop. Because I'm like, why do you work? I was like, why do you work? We make enough money. And she's like, well, it's comfort for me. She's like, it's comfort. And I was like, well, what do I have to do to get you to stop working? And she says, well, when we get to X amount of dollars more a month, I'll stop working. And so that's my goal now, is to retire her. I retired my mom a couple years ago, and now to retire my wife, it'd be great, man. Real estate, you know, that's why I love podcasts like this. I love seeing people do it because there's so much opportunities to grow, man. There's just so many different niches. You don't all have to do the same thing. You can wholesale, don't care for it too much, but you can wholesale. You can Airbnb is like a crazy niche, right? People like literally doing Airbnb arbitrage. Like that's like the most insane thing in the world. You put a down payment on an apartment and then you can start cash flowing almost immediately, man. Like there's so many opportunities out there that we're not taking advantage of. And in our community, their excuse of, oh, you know, we weren't given it, it's not valid anymore, because we see people doing it. Like we see every day. And these things, man, whatever we use them for is okay, but there's so much knowledge in these things. There's guys like you, there's the Bigger Pockets, there's all these books, there's so much knowledge out there. And yet we say like, well, I was never taught, I was never told. And we invest our money in shoes and you know, it's just, and I say that, use the term invest loosely, but we just spend our money in the wrong places. So this side note, when I remember when I was in the military, I had a like a 2000, yeah, it was 2000 Honda Civic, right? It had a black hood. It wasn't a cool black hood. It was actually black because of rust, right? And I remember this soldier, she worked for me, and she walked outside and she said, Chief, she said, that's your car? I said, yeah, it's my car. And she said, you need a nicer car. And I said, no, like, you know, this is the payments are affordable. She's like, that car better be paid for. I said, it is. And at that time we were just focused on growing, right? And she said, you can't drive that car. And I said, why? She said, because you make too much money, you just can't drive that car. And I said, well, no, there's nothing wrong with the car. And so patiently, I was trying to explain to her, and she just would not hear me out. She's just like, you need a nicer car. And so fast forward, I think like 5 years later, I bought my wife her Model X. So I got like a 2021 Model X, right? And so I posted it on Instagram. I was like, oh, fine, you know, her car's here. And she's like, I hate you. The same person, right? She's like, I hate you. And I was like, why? She's like, you have a nice car. And I was like, what about when I drove the rusty car, right? Like,
that's what
nobody
you told me to
hates
get.
you, right? Nobody hates you when you're in the struggle, right? Everybody wants to see you make it. And then when you climb out of the struggle and you get where you want to be, or where you're going to where you want to be, everybody now hates you, right? And it's just a reminder of that. It's like, hey man, you can't follow the crowd, right? I think one of my favorite terms is insanity, insane, and I'm now babbling, so I'm going to put myself back in a second, right? But like, I think I would say 99% of the population is insane, right? And you would say why, right? Like, why is 99% of the population insane? Because every day we go out and we do the same thing. We go to work, but we're going to get wealthy today, right? We follow the same path and we expect a different result, right? We expect like, hey, I'm going to work today. I'm going to work overtime. I'm going to get a second job. Oh, I love the second job thing. I'm going to get a second job because that's going to get me out of poverty. Like, no, it's going to keep you in poverty and take care of your time. And then I've met some people with great ideas and they just refuse to take the leap because the comfort of a job. And dude, I was guilty of it too for a long time, right? But I encourage people to like, hey, if you have those opportunities, take a leap of faith. The people who make it are the people who assume the risk, who take that leap. So stop being insane. You know, like I meet guys out the military and they say like, you don't have a job? And I said, no. And they'll say, what are you doing? I say, I'm building my wealth. And they say like, I want to build wealth too. And I was like, what are you gonna do? Oh, I'm gonna get a job. And I was like, you did it for 20 plus years. You didn't build wealth then. Why are you going to build wealth now? It's not going to build you wealth. Like, build wealth through something different. Real estate's my niche. I love it. but find something that works for you, and that way you can build wealth, generational wealth on top of that.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Kevin, this has been an incredible interview. I'm just thinking about when you and your wife first started out, right? You started and you were losing money. You got the family house and you had the bad property manager, and that's where you started. And over time, you learn more lessons. You learn how to do a lot of things on your own. You learn how to build a team. You built a great relationship with a realtor who helped to scale the portfolio, and you just picked up a lot of skills, and the portfolio has grown, and you're in a great place now with some great things ahead. So I just think it's a great testament to perseverance, really, because some people may have just sold those 2 homes that weren't performing and just said, maybe this real estate stuff is not for us. But you decided to make a different decision, and here you are now. So I'm excited to put this episode out and for everybody to hear it, and I'm excited to hear how things continue to progress for you.
Dude, I'm excited to see what's next. And if I can shout out to my Instagram, it's Kevin.Phillip96. Like, I'm trying to gain followers because I'm actually I just want to show people what I'm doing. I'm actually trying to gain people to help with these new bill funding. Dude, we're giving like 12 to 15% returns on these bills, right? And it takes like 6 months. And I tell people, like, dude, the banks aren't giving you 12, 15%, right? But unfortunately, people are so comfortable with their money in the bank. It's sad. It makes me, I'm sad for people because they think like my money's safe in the bank, and it's not. But definitely. Again, the information's out there. I suggest you do your due diligence, you do your research. And again, real estate's not for everyone, but there are people who are doing shirts, there are people who are doing like Turo. Turo is like crazy, man. There's good money in Turo. Like, I could tell you firsthand, I just don't like it. There's so many things you can do to create a form of income. I like my income to be passive, and real estate's like the number one niche for that. So
definitely. Awesome. Well, Kevin, thank you again for being on the show. Definitely appreciate you making the time. And thank you to everyone else for listening to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. If you haven't already, please do leave us a 5-star rating and review. Also subscribe. All of that takes less than 30 seconds, and it helps us a whole lot. So I look forward to hearing from you all soon.
Hi everyone, Sam here from the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Make sure to hit that notification bell and that subscribe button, and to visit us at blackrealestatedialogue.com.